How you doing today, sir?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you very much. Jerry, you're on with myself, my co-host Eric, who was with us last time, and then our buddy Mike Aglialoro, who comes down every Thursday and joins us. He actually used to write for BrooklynNets101.com as well.
What's going on, man?
So, but Jerry, we've made it. NBA Finals, San Antonio Spurs, Miami Heat. We had to have you on because we're dying to know what your input is on this game.
My input? I think the first half, well, see, I think traditional wisdom, if people want to say, the Spurs, because they've had 9 days off, they're going to be rusty, this and the third. But you got to remember who you're dealing with. You're dealing with Greg Popovich, who is arguably top 5 all-time coaches. All right, I mean, and from a psychological standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, from an in-game adjustment standpoint, from a next game adjustment standpoint, I mean, this guy is just one of the best. I don't think that and you got to remember too with Parker, he was nursing injuries. He's a lot healthier now. Ginobili as well, and as well as Duncan, and getting up in age. This 9 days off did them justice. You know what I mean?
So you think that the rest is going to outweigh the rust?
Oh yeah. For them, yeah. For them, yeah. I'm gonna tell you something. Had they gone 7 games with those big boys and those big and brutal boys in Memphis, they might have been flipping into the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
you know what I mean? Those guys in Memphis kind of remind you of the Pacers. You know, I mean, and just imagine what kind of series that would have been. Memphis and Indiana, neither team can really score, but they can beat you up, and they're big, and they're brutal, and I mean, you can imagine that would have been. But I will say this, that would have been a very, very, very bad ratings final. It would have been. If the weather was good across America, trust me, the ratings would not have been good.
Yeah, not many people would have tuned in for that one. That's for sure.
No, that's not. The sets would have been turned off. But I think with San Antonio, their rest is going to be a help for them. And I'm going to tell you something. They're not as old as people think they are. I mean, Parker is 31, but Parker is still a jet. I mean, how many people, you can't count on one hand how many people in the NBA is faster than he is. And he doesn't get tired. I mean, his stamina is incredible. He doesn't get tired. I mean, he's been in the league for about 10 years, but he's a young 31. Mm-hmm. And Parker, I'm sorry, not Parker. Duncan is efficient with his. Ginobili, you got to worry about his health. But his hamstring, I think that these 9 days off did him wonders. But you got Green, you got Leonard, you got Neal. You got those guys. Bar Diaw, he's not ancient. You have enough channel splitter. I mean, you have enough of that rotation of their core players, if you will, that are still young. You know what I mean? And they still get up and down the floor. So, I don't buy into San Antonio's old. No, they're not. They're just, you got 2 guys that may tip the scale, like well into the 30s, but overall, guys that's going to be, going to full 48 minutes, they're not old. And they're smart. And one thing about Indiana, and I tweeted this too, I said, just imagine if they would have had a tuned-in Chris Paul. Because all Indiana needed was a lead guard.
Yeah.
If them guys would have had Chris Paul, they probably would have beat Miami at 5. The way they were playing, they probably would have beaten them. They wouldn't have swept them, or definitely by 6. They wouldn't have gone 7 games. They would have beaten Indiana. I'm going to say they would have beaten Miami in Indiana, Game 6.
That's one thing we actually talked about here on the show is the fact what a difference maybe a guy like Danny Granger, if healthy, could have made for Indiana in that series against Miami. Being able to match him up with LeBron and have George on Wade or vice versa, like a lot of different options, and then the matchup problems you would create for Miami on the other side. Speaking of matchups, what do you think the chances are of Kawhi Leonard having the ability to slow LeBron James down? Because I've heard some people say that he's not going to be able to handle him, and I've heard other people say by the end of the series, Kawhi Leonard will become a household name.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. This guy, listen, if you want to play poker, play with Leonard. This guy, I mean, one time I tweeted, I said, does he have a smile? I would love to see him and Greg Popovich in a room together, and to see who's the first one that blinks. I mean, this guy. I mean, he's just as stoic and unassuming as all get out. But this guy's reach. I don't know if you know this, but I think he has like a 7'5" wingspan. His wingspan is more than Tyson Chandler's, and Tyson Chandler is 7'1". And I've seen Tyson Chandler the last 2 years in the locker room. He's 7'1" for real. You know, he ain't no 6'9", and he beats up his height. He's 7'1" for real. And Kawhi Leonard, his reach is longer than that. His hands, I think, are the size of a football. I mean, if he spreads open his thumb and pinky, what have you, this guy's hands is not. I mean, LeBron's up to his point, but I'm gonna tell you something. That Leonard kid is gonna be something.
Okay.
He's gonna be something. He is going to be something. And Danny Green, don't forget about this guy here. You know what I mean? This guy, he's another one of those guys that doesn't smile, but can play, can flat out shoot the ball. And I'm gonna tell you something. Those guys show me something because I really thought Golden State was gonna accept them. But again, when you're dealing with experience, when you're dealing with stick-to-itiveness, when you're dealing with adjustments or what have you, those guys show me something because Golden State was gonna run them out of the gym. And see, the one thing that San Antonio has that Indiana doesn't have, and you mentioned Granger, is another thing. Aside from the lead guard, they don't have offensive punch. Indiana's not not a team that's gonna like say be down a court and then come back. You know what I mean? You know, come down from 15. They don't have that. You know, because for one, they don't shoot the three that well. And then to me, and really, George Hill, I like him, but George Hill should be off the ball. And last thing that should be off. He should be, you know, bench player, what have you. But I would move George Hill over to the 2, and you bring in a good qualified lead guard to actually run that on the team where guys can get a better offensive flow. But these guys in San Antonio, they rarely make mistakes. You know, they really. It's going to be a very interesting game. I mean, this game. And I really don't think that these guys are going to come out rusty. I don't think so, because I think, to me, the rest helps them more so men. And I'm going to tell you something. And think about how, I mean, of course, you know, you're going against LeBron James or what have you, but think about how confident these guys are going to be having swept Memphis. Yeah. I mean, you lose 2 to Golden State, guys, and 1 at home. I mean, and it could have almost went, it could have very well went over 2 at home, all right? But they sweep Memphis, and myself included, had Memphis going to the finals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the way Memphis looked against OKC, I can understand why a lot of people felt that way.
Let me ask you, Joe, who do you think LeBron guards in this series? Because, I mean, he's obviously the Heat's best defender, and he could defend almost all 5 positions on the floor. Who do you think he really defends? And, I mean, if Parker starts tearing him up, do you think there's a chance we could see LeBron on Parker in this series?
If he does that, in my opinion, the Heat will lose in 5. Because that guy you're going to have to just Brett Cole and Chalmers to do what they got to do with this kid. All right? Because if you put LeBron on him, okay, think about this. LeBron guarded Jason Terry 2 years ago. I know LeBron, different player, yada, yada, whatever. You put when LeBron was guarding Jason Terry was licking his chops. Because he was like, you can't guard me. I mean, now, it's funny how he had the ball and got old all of a sudden, Jason Terry, that is. But when he was in Dallas, a couple years ago, and he was on top of his game, you put LeBron on him for what he was doing. He was shooting his jumper, but he was able to give him that little 1-2 off the dribble and free himself. LeBron can defend, but he can't defend those speedy point guards like that. And then if you do that, you're going to leave. Here's another thing. The Heat have trouble with point guards and centers. Now, they have a decent center. You know, you lack a better word in Tim Duncan or Chavo Splitter. But their point guard is nasty. So now, the Heat generally Birdman's a lot better shot blocker than what they had. But they're not known as a great rebounding team, and they're not known as a great blocking team. You make LeBron guard Parker at the perimeter, and he gets past him. Who covers for him? Now, again, I know that they have a sophisticated defensive scheme, But when you're coming down to breaking these off the dribble and getting past your best defender, they're gonna have to collapse. And Parker is very good at dishing out and finding open shooters. So that's going to be very, very interesting. I tell you something. Parker has a chance to become MVP of this series, like he was in what was it, 07? He has a chance to wreak havoc. And the way the NBA is now, guys, you know, if you believe on a point guard, you know he's going to the line. You know, this isn't like the '90s where you can, you know, move guys with the elbows, forearms, what have you. You can't do that now. So it's almost like a point guard's free reign. That's just why you have so many quote-unquote scoring point guards. But the thing about this situation is that what makes Parker so unique, guys, is that Parker can dish now. You know, a lot of these scoring point guards, they're known as getting 25 points and maybe 5 assists.
Yeah, and
Parker can get 25 points and 10 assists. And remember, one game, guys, he had 18 assists. 18 assists he had. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, and those guys, and I'll tell you something, there must be something in the air or in the water in San Antonio, man, because that must be fundamental central. Because they beat you with just bread and butter plays.
Yeah.
That look flashy, but they're not.
Well, Jerald, we are on a limited time, so we want to ask you one more question, and then we want to get your prediction for the series. And I also know you're probably on a limited time set as well. So.
Well, I mean, the one question I'm going to ask, I mean, we're talking about LeBron, we're talking about Parker. Who exactly is going to guard Tim Duncan? And if it's Bosh, how is he going to be expected to really improve what has been a very poor performance so far in the playoffs? Is he really going to be the one expected to cover Duncan in this finals matchup?
Now I'm gonna tell you something was funny. I'm gonna tell you guys know this. George Hill, you know, and Tony Parker are friends. They buddies. You know, George Hill suggested that Tim Duncan tutor Hibbett. And we saw Hibbett arguably became one of the top tier centers in the league in his playoffs. But guess who tutored him? Tim Duncan. Guess who gave Bosh fits and nightmare?
Exactly.
Now you know, I'm gonna tell you something. I mean, Hibbert probably had Duncan by about maybe 20 pounds, maybe. But Duncan is big. I mean, Duncan is at 7 feet. This guy, it's funny. He may look shorter because he's, you know, I think Thiago's maybe 7'1", but Duncan is a big man. He's big and he's smarter than him, okay? And he has more range. So that's gonna be ugly. That's gonna be an ugly matchup. You might have to put Birdman on him just because he's more athletic. And it was weird. Birdman has more dog. He has more athletic prowess than Bosh does.
I can agree with that.
I think the one thing that you saying he's got more dog, I think is a perfect way to put a comparison between him and Bosh. I mean, he may not have the basketball talent when it comes down to scoring offensively, but when it comes down to giving you everything he's got, he's more likely to do it than Bosh. Now, Jerald, before we let you go, I mean, we obviously need your prediction. So I need you to let me know, is it Heat, is it Spurs, and in how many games?
I say Spurs in 6.
Spurs in 6? And you got and you think Parker's your MVP?
I said Parker, and listen, if the Spurs win in 6, and by the way, I will go with Parker because I think Parker is a guy that they really, I mean, Duncan too, but Parker's a guy that will probably win rough shot because they don't have a shot blocker really to contain him.
Yeah. Unless you're counting LeBron or Birdman, those are about your most likely two guys to have a rejection.
And believe it or not, that's going to be on a switch or whatever. Because remember, Hibbert was standing right in the paint. Okay, and so that was a problem. Birdman is more of a help defender type of guy, you know, and so if he has to leave Duncan to help Parker, guess what? Off the backboard all night. Off the back paint shot all night.
Oh, wow. I actually, Gerald, if you got a minute, I'm going to throw this out to you. This is pretty much a breaking news on Twitter.
Okay.
Denver Nuggets just fired George Karl.
What?
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
they don't want. They're
Wow.
not. Yeah, instead of letting him finish out his last year of his contract,
Wow.
they fired George
Wow.
Karl. I'm looking at a tweet right now from Kenneth Fareed
That's the
saying,
coach
"So
of
we
the
lost
year."
the GM and now a coach. What the hell is next?"
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And see, I'm gonna tell you something. In a real kind of crazy way, this vindicates Melo. Because remember, everybody kept Melo never got the first round. Them didn't got the first round either. All right, them historically did not get the first round for whatever reason. Now, this guy, I think what was going on too was, I think George Karl was kind of giving feelers too much that he wanted to flirt with the Clippers a little bit. I think he was feeling himself a little bit, and this changes things a lot. Now, I tell you something. With Denver guys, what kind of philosophy are they going to have?
Yeah.
What kind of a team? Because what made them tick was the fact that they were running and coming at you in waves.
So why don't we consider letting the Lakers fire D'Antoni, send D'Antonio up to Denver, and then bring Karl in the coach for the Lakers?
And you know what? Trade a coach. You want to tweet that.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if you tweet that, I'll retweet it.
I'm tweeting that right now, sir. Well, Jerald, man, I'm glad we had to have you on, especially for a breaking thing like that.
No question.
I really appreciate you calling in, and maybe we'll get you back on Monday. We'll talk about the first two games of the series.
Listen, you got me. You got me.
All right.